Hey, what is going on guys? RvzStealth here, and in today's video I'm going to be giving you guys my opinion on the best junglers for Season 5, patch 5.9. So this patch, Cinderhulk did receive a pretty decent nerf, and I'm hoping that we're going to be seeing a lot less Cinderhulk junglers this patch. I do think that the Warrior and the Magus junglers are going to have a little bit of a comeback, so my list is a little bit different from last patch. Cinderhulk is still a pretty good item. It's still great on a select few junglers, but I do think that Warrior and Magus are definitely viable options now after the Cinderhulk nerf, so therefore my list is a little bit different. So first up on my list I have Fiddlesticks, and Fiddlesticks, he's one of the best teamfight junglers in the game because of all of the damage he has and because of his strong CC as well, from his Q and his E. He also does a ton of damage in teamfights. If you can get a fully channeled ultimate off on multiple targets in a teamfight, then it's just gonna chunk the enemies down. He's also got great sustain in the jungle because of his W, and it makes it just really easy to stay in the jungle and farm up while playing as Fiddlesticks. Some cons of Fiddle are he does not have any escapes, which is a pretty decent con, and he's also very squishy as well. So next up I have Hecarim. I really like the changes to Hecarim's Q this patch, and I've played him in a few games, and I definitely do think it's a very good buff to him because it makes his clears really good. You don't even have to use one of your potions. As long as you get a pretty good leash on either your Gromp or your Krugs, you don't even have to use a potion on your first clear because his clears are just so good now because of his Q and his W. He's got great CC because of his ultimate and his E, and he's a bruiser as well, so I like to build the Warrior item on Hecarim this patch, and then after that I go Trinity Force and then usually full tank after that. He's got really fast clears now, like I said, because of the changes to his Q, and he's got great sustain in the jungle with his W. He's also got insane engage because of his E and his ultimate, and he's got great mobility with his E and his ult. He's also got a very good mid-game power spike because once you pick up that Trinity Force, he starts to do a ton of damage. One con to Hecarim is that he is weaker if you do fall behind with him because he's an all-in champion, and if you do fall behind and you try to engage with your ultimate, then you're probably just going to get blown up right away before your team can even do anything. So next up on my list I have a Moo Moo. I don't think the nerfs to Cinderhulk really hurt a Moo Moo at all. His kit is still really strong, which makes him the champion that he is, and it makes him a really good pick for solo queue because he's got insane CC with his ultimate. Having that AoE stun in teamfights is just really strong. And if you can get that off on multiple targets, then you're pretty much guaranteed to win the teamfight as long as your team follows up nicely. He's also got pretty good CC because of his Q and his ultimate, and he's got great engage with his Q as well. I like that he has a lot of build options as well. You can build like a few AP items on a Moo Moo if you're ahead. You can just go full tank on a Moo Moo, and you can still do really well whichever build path you choose to go. He's also got very good clears in the jungle with his W and his E, and he does percentage health damage with his W as well. One con to a Moo Moo is that he does have a weaker early game compared to some of the other junglers, so if he does get invaded in the early game, then he's not going to be able to stand up to those strong early game junglers. Next up I have Sejuani. So Sejuani is still a really good pick in my opinion, even though the Cinderhulk did get the nerf. She's got a great teamfight. She has really strong CC with her Q, her E, and her ultimate, and she's got pretty good clear speeds in the jungle as well because of the percentage health damage from her W, and her W doing a load of damage. She's also got great pick potential with her ultimate, which makes her a really good pick in my opinion. And her level 6 is really strong. If you can get a gank off down in the bot lane and get your ultimate off on the enemies, then you're pretty much guaranteed to at least blow the enemy's flash, and the chance of you picking up that kill, as long as your bottom lane follows up, are very high. She's also got pretty solid damage if you do pick up the Leandries on her, and she does percentage health damage with her W as well. One con to Sejuani is that she does have a weaker early game clear. So last but not least, on my top 5, I have Gragas. Pros to Gragas are he's got a great early game. He's one of the strongest early game junglers in the game in my opinion, because his ganks are just really strong once he does hit level 3. He's got strong CC with his Q, his E, and his ultimate, and he does percentage health damage with his W, which actually chunks the opponents quite a bit. Even if you don't build any like AP on Gragas, his W still does a load of damage. He's got great engage and disengage with his ultimate and with the CC from his Q and his E as well. He's also got a very strong passive for the jungle, and it just enables him to sustain really nicely because every few seconds whenever he uses an ability, he gains a certain amount of health back. He's got great clears in the jungle as well because of that percentage health damage coming out of his W and the AoE damage from his Q and his E as well. And he's also got pretty good mobility with his E. One con to Gragas is that he does not do a lot of damage. His W does do a little bit, but his abilities like his Q and his E really don't do any damage anymore. So first up on the honorable mentions, I have Vi. Vi is definitely a warrior jungler this patch, so I wouldn't recommend building Cinderhulk on her. If you do build warrior on her, which is what I've always liked to do on Vi, then you can do really well in my opinion. Her ultimate is really strong for locking down the enemy AD carry or the enemy squishy, and she's also got a great early game as well, so I definitely do think that Vi is still a pretty solid pick. Next up I have Wukong. So Wukong is a very strong champion with the new Black Cleaver, and I do think that he's a very good pick because of that item right now. So if you're looking for a strong teamfight jungler who benefits from the Black Cleaver a lot, then Wukong is definitely a strong choice. Next up I have Pantheon. Pantheon is one of the strongest early game junglers in the game, and once you do hit level 6 as Pantheon, you definitely want to be looking to use your ultimate down bot lane and pick up a kill. Whenever your ultimate's up, you want to be trying to use it to gank a lane because its ultimate is just so strong, and if you can snowball the early game as Pantheon, then you can just get ahead and end the game before 30 minutes, but if you don't have a strong early game as Pantheon, then he does fall off in the late game, which is why you do really need to have that strong early game presence. Next up I have Xin Chao. So Xin Chao is also a champion who benefits a lot from the new Black Cleaver, and I think he's a very good pick right now because of that item. So if you're looking for a pretty easy to play jungler, in my opinion, Xin Chao isn't very hard to play, then Xin Chao is definitely a pretty good pick right now. Next up I have Shaco or Shaco, however you want to pronounce it. I do think he's a pretty good pick, but he does take a lot more skill in my opinion than some of the other junglers. You do need to have a strong early game as Shaco or Shaco, because if you don't, then he doesn't really serve much of a purpose other than split pushing, which isn't a bad thing. Shaco's a really good split pusher, but if you don't have a strong early game, then you're not going to be able to jump in and one-shot the enemy AD carry or the enemy squishy on the enemy team. So make sure that you are ganking in the early game as Shaco because that's where he does his best. So last on the honorable mentions, I have Rexi. Rexi is a very strong early game jungler, so definitely like Shaco, make sure that you're making a presence in the early game because that's where she does her best. She has really good ganks because of her burrow and then her knock up from her W, and I would definitely recommend building the warrior on her this patch. Cinderhulk isn't a bad choice, and if your team does need a tank and you won't be building any damage, then definitely pick that item up. But I do like being able to carry by dealing damage when playing as Rexi, so that's why I like building the warrior on her. She's a very strong split pusher as well. Once you do pick up the Ravenous Hydra, I would definitely recommend picking up like either the warrior and then Ravenous Hydra and then going full tank after that, because I do like being able to do damage on Rexi, and I do like being able to do damage on a lot of my junglers because I don't like being the support carry, or I don't like being the support jungler on the team, because if my team doesn't get fed and I'm not able to feed my team kills, then it's going to be really hard for me to carry the game, and that's why I do like building the warrior jungle item on Rexi. So that is all for the video, guys. If you enjoyed, then be sure to drop a like and subscribe if you have not already. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have an awesome day, and I will see you in my next video.